curious who you would say. I'm curious who Dr. Alan Keyes would say was the best president in his lifetime.
Oh, in my lifetime. Well, I used to have no problem with the answer to that.
Okay.
Because I would immediately say Ronald Reagan.
Me too.
And apologize because my experience was such that maybe I was prejudiced. But over the course of the last 4 years, I think Donald Trump gave an unexpectedly impressive performance.
Amen.
As president of the United States. And if you cut through all the lies, all of what was the intended to be hateful assaults
Amen.
that were leveled against him, and though a lot of people may not realize, he was beaten up and vilified and slandered in various outrageous ways. But their aim, as we are, I think, in the midst of discovery, sadly, was not Donald Trump. Everything they did to try to degrade and destroy and defame and otherwise reduce Donald Trump was because they hate the American people.
Wow.
And when I say that, I say it advisedly. And when I say American people, I suppose I should define it, because it's the people who are the ultimate sovereigns, empowered by the Constitution of the United States to decide the composition of our government, and whose heart and will for the premises of justice it's based on is supposed to be what guides the nation, right? Right. This country is not about who leads us. It's about whether the people, through their real support for the principles of God's goodwill that the country is founded on, whether they continue to be in the lead, to take the initiative in building the country and maintaining it. Amen. I think a lot of people have forgotten that. They think government's about government. No. In this country, government is about representing the people, representing their heart, representing their goodwill, representing their courage, representing their will to do right according to the endowment of God. And in order for something to be represented, what do you have to do? You have to present it in the first place.
Well said. Very well said.
And so our job is to present the goodwill of God through our decisions, so that those we choose can join our forces together in various ways to carry it out more effectively.
Very well said.
And I think that a lot of us have been enticed to forget that.
Very well said. So if us as Catholics present the Catholic faith the way it was handed down to us from the apostles, then our leaders will see, wow, this is what these people are all about. I need to represent what they're presenting to me. Very beautiful. I've never heard it put that way. That's awesome.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. But I think it's more than talk themselves out of it. I think we now have leaders who have actually given into the lie that their judgment and heart and goodwill are superior to that of the American people. That's why a president of the United States, a candidate rather for president of the United States, actually looked other Americans in the eye and called them deplorable.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing.
And then when they lit up successfully someone to represent them, they treated him as if he was deplorable.
Amen. You're right.
And therefore we're out to disregard. I've never seen any president that I've read about who was treated with such deep, ugly, even violent disregard for the office that he was occupying.
I remember
Donald Trump.
I remember when the media were up in arms.
Though he turned out to be one of the most successful.
Yes, amen. And I was going to say, I remember when the media was up in arms. Yeah, for my viewers, we have like a 10-second lag. So I'm sorry if it seems like I'm talking over him. It's the lag. It's not me. So I remember the
Right.
media being upset. They thought it was the most disrespectful thing when I think it was Representative Wilson called out Obama and called him a liar, which he shouldn't have called him a liar I think in the setting he was in. But that pairs a comparison of the names that Donald Trump has been called 24/7 from when he was running until even now after he's out.
That's right. Well, I think this absolutely anti-constitutional impeachment farce that they are going through at the moment is another sign of that. Because, and it worries me because it shows, as did the lack of response to the evidence of shenanigans going on during the election. It shocked me when the Supreme Court of the United States dared to suggest that they did not have a responsibility to deal with that.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says clearly that they have to maintain, the United States has to guarantee a Republican form of government in each of the states, right? So when you say the words United States, we of course think of it as the Union, but it's plural because when you say the word United States, what you are saying applies to all the states taken together and each state taken singly, right? And so that article says that in each state there is a guarantee of a Republican form of government, and the United States government that represents the common will of all the states is to guarantee that that form of government will be respected, will be continued, will not be overthrown. And when they debated it at the Constitutional Convention and when they fought for it during the Revolution, it was quite clear what is a Republican form of government. Small r, by the way, it didn't refer to any party.
Right.
It was referring to a form of government. It's a form of government in which what we were talking about, with the people guided by God's premises in the lead, right? Presenting what is on their hearts as the goodwill of God that will benefit everybody in the society. When those people choose representatives to go and compose the actual everyday personnel that are going to carry out the functions of government. That's Republican government. Now tell me, what happens to Republican government if a little clique of people can get together, and whether it's by cheating in terms of illicit ballot fabrication, by ignoring the lawful rules and allowing people who aren't qualified to vote, or casting votes that don't represent qualified voters, or else building up machines with logarithms that can cheat. Right? All of it is an attack on the process of election.
Amen.
But if you take the ultimate outcome away from the people, you have destroyed the Republican form of government, right? Because Republican literally in Latin means the things that belong to the people. You take away the thing that belongs to the people, which is the choice about who should represent them in government, and you have destroyed the Republic. How could the Supreme Court not have seen that? Yeah, they did see it, and they were just too gutless or careless to do what was required by their oath. And I can barely think of it without feeling the sense that it was, I don't know, disgraceful. It was something that casts a shadow now.
Do you think it
over the whole situation, because the courts, sorry?
I was going to say, do you think it was a cowardly act by Chief Justice Roberts, or a nefarious motivation?
Well, first, I think it was cowardly. Yes, I think it was an act that required courage to stand for the Constitution. But since you have taken an oath to do that very thing, right? Stand for the Constitution, then you overcome your cowardice. That's just like people have had to do who serve our country. They
Amen.
go out into the warlike situation. And I'm sure that being as human as any of the rest of us, they come to that moment when the whole thing seems so overwhelming and fearsome and awful that they want to run. If they run, that's cowardice. The justices of the Supreme Court ran from the truth. They ran from the evidence. They ran from their obligation to the Constitution. And in doing so, I think they were to be regarded in some ways as even more disgraceful than any soldier might give in to that temptation. Why? Because everything had been done by the founders. Go back and read it, to give them the independence to do what's right. Their salaries fixed, their tenure for life. They can't be kicked off unless they do something wrong. But if they're arguing according to the law and the Constitution, nobody can prove that they're doing anything wrong. So it wasn't just a question of, people say Roberts browbeat them. If they were willing to be browbeaten, they were cowards. They failed in their duty.
So
and they owe an apology to God and the rest of this country.
So if the other justices wanted to hear the cases, they could have if they voted. It wasn't just Chief Justice Roberts making that sole decision.
He doesn't, no, he does not have that prerogative. That's not the way the Supreme Court works.
Okay.
And from what I understand, he put pressure on others, but not having been there, I can't say that for sure.
Okay.
But I think you have to look at each justice and say that justice was individually responsible for not speaking the truth.
Wow.
For not deciding, choosing in a way that took account of the Constitution. And the report, that one report, not the report, but one report I read had the issue of riots and the possibility of dangers of that kind arising and so forth and so on. That's precisely what they're not supposed to pay attention to.
Amen.
They're supposed to, and the founders discussed this at the Constitutional Convention. They talked about what you have to do, because being in that position could require the greatest possible courage and fortitude and willingness to just stand on what you believe to be right. And they did everything they could to try to put the justices in a position where they could have that courage, wouldn't have to fear that others could simply, sort of cast them aside. But they didn't take advantage of that position to show the courage. And I was surprised, because in this case, what would they have been doing? They would have been standing for the right of the people to see their will registered truly and then respected.
Amen.
Right? The whole basis of the form of government of, by, and for the people. You couldn't have gotten more clear about it. And yet they forswore their oath and didn't do their jobs. And that's not to say that I am prejudging how they should have decided. No, but they should have done what in this exact case, the Paxton, the Texas, and all the states that stood with them, they represented the reason the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction when a state or states are bringing a complaint to them. They have that original jurisdiction because if the court does not do its job in those circumstances, it is likely to lead eventually to the disintegration of the Union. That's why their job is so important. And in case you haven't noticed, a lot of people are noticing that this country right now is, I don't know, it's like a machine that's shivering because something's wrong, and you can hear the noises that it's making because things aren't working together properly, and you expect that at any moment it's going to shut down and fall apart. And that's exactly where we are now. And they put us in that position without even making an effort to avoid it. It's a disgrace. It really does. That makes me a little angry because it shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right. It makes many of us angry.